Welcome to A Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. I'm Evan J. Cholfin from Luxhammer, where we help the brands that help you live healthier. Today, we're joined by Al Baumeler, President, and Kelly Dressler, VP Regulatory Affairs at Synergy CHC. They're building an impressive portfolio of consumer health and beauty brands focused on making lives brighter and better. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
So, Al, what's the story behind Synergy CHC's mission to create brighter and better lives?
Well, our mission really is to keep people healthy, that they go through life in a stage where they can manage their own health and be healthy and happy. And that's our top line. Now, our products focus in a little bit more in specific areas, but it's really our goal is to keep people healthy and happy as they age.
That's great. And Kelly, what makes Synergy's approach unique in evaluating and acquiring health and wellness brands?
I think we have a very talented team and we have a very interesting array of products. So we're focusing on a lot of web. So we have a team that's oriented towards Amazon and website sales for those younger consumers. And we really dig into what does the modern woman need? What does the millennial woman need? Some of these up and coming consumers that are now joining their purchasing power into the market, and then also looking at where folks who have a little more tenure in their life cycle shop. So that would be, Costco and more brick and mortar stores. So we're really looking at all angles to see what people need and how we can best help them and support them throughout their life.
That's great. And could you tell us about your core brands?
So for Flat Tummy, that started more as a de-bloating brand. Al, you'll have to correct me if my record is wrong here, but it started overseas actually as a de-bloating tea. And over time, at least since I've been here with Synergy, we've really looked at how can we best expand that line to support the needs of the woman. So gut health is very big. A lot of consumers are looking at gut health. Particularly through the pandemic, we looked at relaxation products. Right now, we're really starting to leverage more into that healthy weight loss space with the advent of these hard-hitting pharmaceutical drugs that a lot of people want to possibly avoid or aren't really in the segment that needs them. But how do we best support weight loss and fitness? So we're launching protein powders, pre-workouts, weight loss accelerators, where it's very well validated, clinically studied ingredients that really allow us and enable us to make claims and bring that to the consumer in a way that makes sense to them.
Well, I can tackle the Focus Factor angle. So Focus Factor really is a brand that's been around for 25 years. It actually created the brain health space that now we take for granted. But when you go back, even 10 years ago, you hardly saw a set within the store that was called brain health, much like you do with joint today or heart. So now it's grown to a big category. The consumer's really aware that they can buy products really to help their cognition. Specifically, it could be focus, it could be attention, memory as well. But as Kelly mentioned, I think what makes us unique is we really want to make sure that our products have been clinically tested so that we actually support the claims that we make. So our core product, which is the Focus Factor Original Formula, very specifically says right on the label, it improves memory, concentration, and focus. And it's backed by a clinical study that's one of the premier studies in our supplement industry. Well done, placebo-controlled, blinded. It checks all the marks as a core primary study. So we're very proud of the support and the type of products we make, at least for helping people with their brain health.
That's great. So that seems like one of the things that probably drew you to the company. I'm curious what drew you to both Focus Factor and Flat Tummy in particular in your portfolio.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I had managed a brand that saw a growth spurt through the whole joint health development as a category. So I started seeing similar trends when it came to brain health. And I saw a lot of the same kind of triggers and little points that you could see this category is going to be big. But more importantly, it was going to help a lot of people. So this was a space that really was what we consider a white space. And we've really been able to capitalize on it. We started with 2 SKUs when we bought the brand back in 2015, because we actually acquired the brand in its infancy. And now we have close to 30 products and, the ability to also take it internationally. We not only do business here in the US, but in Canada, the UK, soon to be in Mexico, as well as will be in Taiwan as well. So we're really expanding the line.
That's great. And how do you maintain brand integrity while driving growth across those diverse product categories?
Well, we make sure that obviously we register our brands in every country. So we do our diligence and we police our brands, obviously. So we make sure, I guess, from a legal and regulatory aspect, which I'm sure Kelly can touch on, that we do our diligence to stay in alignment and in compliance with a lot of the different countries and their regulatory status and requirements.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
and just to springboard on that, for these different international markets, obviously the regulations, the ingredients that you can use, the claims that you can make can differ. And we do make a lot of effort to put in the work to make sure that we are bringing those validated formulas, claims with integrity, and we're complying with all of those packaging requirements. So it takes a lot of work, but it's really fun. It's hard to keep up with, but thankfully it's an industry where people like to share information.
Yeah, that's great. So, what's working particularly well in your portfolio approach right now?
A couple of things. I think one, the category is growing, so we're trying to take advantage of being really everywhere where people shop. So basically, we're covering the range from the usual suspects: Costco, number one, Walmart, Amazon, as well as all the pharmacy chains, most of the food supermarkets, and all the online retailers as well. So we want to make sure we're everywhere the consumer can find us, including our own website. And then obviously, advertising is important so that they can know our product, understand our product. We want to communicate again that message that really in our category is somewhat unique in that we are clinically tested for the claims that we make, memory, concentration, and focus. So we really need to break through to the consumer so that they understand and know what really makes us different. So that's our quest, is get that voice out there for the brand and its benefits.
So, Kelly, what are the biggest regulatory challenges facing consumer health companies today?
There are a lot, but I think the one that holds true is, there are so many regulatory bodies. You've got the FDA, the FTC, you've got consumer litigation, you have different states that are creating some of their own unique requirements. So keeping up with all of those, and then in addition, making sure that we're doing our part by launching products that we know work. We're giving claims with integrity, and phrasing those in the appropriate way. So with a lot of this online marketing, with the TikTok and Instagram, you have a lot of brands that might be a little looser with that, and they'll make claims that are very attractive to the consumer. But for somebody who's been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years, that knows their ingredients and kind of knows the science behind. So that's where we're very fortunate to have a lot of connections with our ingredient suppliers and people who do this science, to where we can know that we have the latest and greatest science and ingredients to put in our products.
Yeah, definitely. How do you compete against that when people are making all kinds of false or claims that are less than legal?
Well, I think that we like to sit down with our team and really understand. So, for instance, if somebody on the team says, hey, such and such a brand, they're making this claim, how are they making it? The first thing we'll do is we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. We'll go in, we'll look at the ingredient, we'll research it, we'll look at the science and say, can they really make this claim? Are we missing something? And sometimes that's the case. And then in other cases, we do have to sit down and have the conversation that this isn't quite where the science is. We can go in this direction, we can phrase it this way. Maybe it's just that we need to offer a claim with more context, for instance, in a certain population, or with diet and exercise, or something like that. Context is very important, but we want to make sure that we give the consumers the full picture.
And if I may add to that, so we're also very transparent with our research and our clinical. You can go right on our website, Focus Factor, and then look up our clinical, look up our conclusions, review it for yourself. I know the consumer sometimes will get, it's something that they're not experts in, but sometimes if you just look at the conclusion, it will tell you. You just look at some basic parameters that are outlined there. And likewise, you could see our competitors too, whether they have one on their website. If they don't have a clinical on their website, that kind of tells you something. And there are cases also where they may have a clinical and they may state there that the clinical didn't do what it was supposed to. So you can find it both ways. So you just need to do a little bit due diligence, from a consumer standpoint, and you'll be able to find out whether what you're buying is truly supported, which is important because it's hard for some companies to break through the noise. There might be a bigger company, a bigger brand with deeper pockets that is able to shout one thing. We may not agree with it, but we have to then shout our message, but sometimes you get overshouted based on the size of the brand and the pockets of the brand as well.
I'm curious, how do you balance innovation with compliance across different product categories?
Well, I mean, it takes a balanced approach. So really, you got probably two key people here. There's a whole team as well, but it may start with marketing. And actually, an idea can come from anywhere, but it requires the marketing and sales team with regulatory, because we can think of all kinds of products, but if they truly can be backed up, and we have that balance with regulatory, Kelly's team, who helps us really develop and design a lot of the products, because like I said, what are the claims you want to make? What are the ingredients that should be in there? And are those ingredients, or is that formulation going to be supported somehow? Can you then make the claim so that you have a legitimate product that actually helps people? Yeah, we try to balance uh, concept, timing, because one of the things that makes us unique too is the fact that we're able to launch products, in a short window of time. But we do it in a balanced, responsible way by working with regulatory. So by working together right from the get-go, it allows us to accomplish a lot of those goals in terms of speed and a quality product. So I don't know if you have anything else to add, Kelly, to that.
Yeah, I would say two things. Communication, when an idea comes from somewhere, really just instead of taking that idea at face value, we're very good about meeting on a very constant basis and understanding if somebody has an idea, what are you really going for? What keywords are you targeting? How can we splice this and dice this to achieve as many things as you feel that you need to launch a product and quickly? And then the other piece of that is, I can speak for my team, we are always reading all day, all night, every newsletter that comes in just for fun, the latest studies. We have ingredient suppliers that reach out to us. And even if we don't necessarily have an idea in the pipeline, we'll typically take their call and sit down and meet with them and say, okay, do you have anything new? Do you have anything in the pipeline? What studies are coming out? So even if we don't have an idea in the tank that day, we have a very good read on what the science is, what's coming out. And, if I read something interesting, I might just send it in an email to myself, future concept for such and such, and then it's there and accessible. So we have a pot of ideas simmering on the stove. Even if we don't know exactly where it's going to fit, we have lots of ideas.
That's great. So I'm wondering, from a marketing perspective, I know Focus Factor, as you mentioned, was really first to market, and now it's such a crowded marketplace. How do you stand out these days and the plethora of different products that are out there?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's always a challenge. First, you got to be, like I said, in distributions and in as many retailers as you can so the consumer can find you. Once you have a good level of distribution, then you want to ideally be able to advertise as much as you can. Obviously, you know that it's not cheap to be on TV. That's our favorite vehicle to reach as many people as possible. And not just to reach them, but reach them with an impactful message. So we're big believers in that. You have to have a type of TV commercial that will captivate and engage people so that they can remember it and they can understand the brand, connect the brand to the product, to the benefits. So really, in an ideal world, we'd like to advertise on TV, but we also do it through the social media platforms. And then we also obviously periodically have promotions in store so we can stand out for the consumer and then they can give us a try, those that haven't tried our product. It's a multi-pronged approach. It's advertising via TV or social media, sometimes print, as with Costco. We're in the Costco Connections magazine 6 times a year. I think 4 of those times we're in the back cover. So that's one big vehicle that we use to reach a lot of people. So it's about creating the awareness, then creating trial, and then hopefully adoption.
Yeah, that's really great. So what are your main growth targets for expanding the Synergy CHC portfolio?
Well, we look at it in, I guess, a multitude of ways. One, expand stores. Two, expand the product range. So, for example, we've expanded into kids. So we provide also a Focus Factor product for kids. There's a Focus Factor Extra Strength for kids. There's a gummy format for those that are pill fatigued that may want another delivery format. We've also expanded into ready to drink, a Focus Factor and Energy ready to drink product, into shots. So we're trying to really go after all the audiences, the more mature audience, which is our traditional customer, the mid-range millennial type customer, as well as the Gen Z customers that are more into the drinks and the shots. So product expansion, store expansion, and then international expansion. So I think we look at those 3 things to try and really grow our brand in those multiple dimensions.
That's great. So, how do you identify potential acquisition targets that align with your mission?
Well, it's got to have a strategic fit. Are they going after a similar customer? Um, is this brand to have the potential to enter into our major retailers like Costco, like Walmart, where we already have existing relationships? So we want to leverage those relationships really. And if there's partial distribution, small but growing brand, to me that's a candidate potentially, because if it's got a good product, good claims, we might be able to get it into all of our distributed partners. So that's the way really to create value within a small brand, just through our experience, contacts, connections, just experience in the marketplace. And then obviously regulatory's got to look at the products and see, is this product substantiated enough so that it fits our criteria of delivering products that fulfill their goal.
That's great. And you mentioned that you're sold internationally. How do you think about international expansion?
It's a combined approach. We obviously want to be in those big markets, but sometimes you gotta determine in what order of priority. And this is really where Kelly also comes into the picture. Well, she might say, "Hey, this market is easier to enter into. This one takes a little bit more work. This one requires formula changes." And even though you may have the same clinical, other countries and other regulatory bodies view it differently. A lot of times we follow our customers. So, for example, if Costco and Walmart are already in Canada, then we want to be there as well because we already have a relationship with them in the US. We want to extend there first and then to everybody else. So we look at those things where we can leverage our relationships of international retailers. But again, you need to understand the market requirements and hurdles. And that's really where Kelly's team comes in.
Yeah, and it can take time for a formula as unique as our flagship formula, Focus Factor. That's something where we don't want to mess with the formula. We have a clinical on it, so we put in the work to actually have that approved in Canada and it's in its full form instead of having to tweak the formula. So that gives us the flexibility to make very unique claims and leverage all of the information that we have on it. A lot of other pathways would be just to take monographed ingredients and put them together and just have a 3-month timeline of quote unquote pre-approved product by Health Canada that can just quickly enter the market. So at times, if there's good ingredients, good claims, we might look at that approach, but we always really want to leverage our science whenever appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's your strategy for accelerating growth once you acquire a brand?
Well, really to assess, are there things that we can do to improve the benefits, claims, communication, i.e., packaging communication? And then once we know that the product really is maximized in terms of its benefits, its claims, the packaging presentation, then we want to just force it through our entire retailer network and really go out and try to get as full a distribution as we can, and then ultimately expand internationally as well. So we want to be able to have a good assessment of the product and all we can do to expand it.
I would also add that our brand managers, they do a very good job of keeping their finger on the pulse of the consumer. So they read all the reviews, they respond to questions. So from that, we can also glean what are people looking for? How can we improve our product? Things like that. So when the consumer preference shifted from plant-based back to whey protein, we were able to be on top of that and reformulate one of our products in our flat tummy line, which is had pretty good success having launched in January or December. I can't remember quite when.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because sometimes consumer preferences do change. Take, for example, the energy drink category. A couple of years ago, we started seeing a shift towards more functional benefits. In other words, the consumer wanted benefits beyond just energy. Maybe for gut health, we started seeing more focus. I want focus and energy, or gut health, as in poppy, for example. So yeah, so you got to keep your pulse on that consumer. So really, we've been able to start capitalizing on that from a focus factor standpoint with our RTD, and in that capturing some of that consumers' changing preference for more brain health or cognitive benefits to add to energy.
Yeah. What trends are you seeing in consumer health that excite you?
I find it so interesting, the weight loss and fitness category, because we had this trend of body positivity right around 2020 when everybody was staying inside and it's okay to order your DoorDash and all of that. All of the celebrities and everybody kind of swinging back into the very skinny Ozempic type trend. It's interesting to see what those consumer needs are. So a number of other brands out there, they're launching companion products, they're launching protein products, things to help with lean muscle mass. So really understanding what the consumer is looking for. Are people looking for assistance while they're going through that particular lifestyle journey, or are they looking for a way to achieve body composition goals without having to go that route? It's interesting to see both sides.
And how does that affect you guys?
Well, for supplements, obviously we're not here to compete with pharmaceuticals. So we're focused on people's health and really optimizing what they do, how they do it, and the body systems that we're all blessed with wherever we are on that spectrum. So with that in mind, we're not trying to compete with pharmaceuticals, but we are trying to help people live into whatever journey they're going on.
And what opportunities are you most excited about capitalizing on?
Well, on the brain health side, we're seeing a lot of interest from younger consumers, Gen Zers and millennials, looking for products that help with their focus, attention, stamina. And so to me, that was a pleasant awakening a while back because we were so focused on the baby boomers looking for memory improvement. But we were seeing this huge underbelly of younger consumers looking for products that'll help with their attention and their focus and those kind of elements. So, and that's where the drinks are perfect because the younger consumer tends to want something that maybe can work faster, like drinks, like shots, and those kind of more immediate products, or maybe a powder mix. So it's very exciting to be able to capitalize on the growth of that consumer demand from that younger audience.
Yeah, definitely. How are you preparing for that growth?
Well, we got to rely a lot on Kelly's team and also our contract manufacturing. I laugh because Kelly's intimately involved. She works very closely with Larry, our head of third party contractors. So he's constantly making sure that we have ample capacity and we have backup on top of backup to be able to supply all the products if something really explodes. And I don't know if you want to touch on that a little more, Kelly, since you're reading that day to day.
Yeah, we have very good relationships with a number of experts and contract manufacturers. So we are in constant communication with them, understanding, what their capacity is, thinking about what products could we make with them in the future. If they have a new capability or a new line up and coming, we want to know about it. So in addition to the quality side, just understanding really how much can we put on them, what can we put with them is a very interesting dance. To circle back on your question about what we're the most excited about, I think I'm excited about just the consumer awareness around nutrition that's exploded in the last, I would say, 5 years. It's really gone the way of people wanting to understand why things work in their body, how things work. Gut health is getting very big. People are starting to understand. I think there's always been like a general understanding of the food pyramid and, oh, fiber is good for you, but exactly how does that work? What are the optimal ways to optimize your gut health? What else goes into it besides maybe eating less sugar, eating this? So there's a very interesting pattern emerging of people wanting to be educated, people wanting to understand the science, and some of it might be TikTok science, but we'll take it. We want people to get curious about their bodies and be curious about what these different things do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's going to be crucial to get right in the next year?
Being a small company, you got to juggle a lot of projects. So making sure that nothing falls, the old spinning plate approach, where you got a lot of things going on and you got to make sure that everything moves forward in concert. So from product development to executing sales by visiting and meeting with your retailer partners. And that's another big thing is that having Zoom meetings was great, very convenient, but it does not replace a face-to-face with retailers. They're the ones that really understand their consumers. They get all the feedback and they're in the front lines there. So it's very educational to meet with them and to talk face-to-face. And a lot of times you get a little bit of information in terms of what they're thinking from the consumer. What would be that next idea, the next claim, the next ingredient? So yeah, it's really just making sure you're covering all the bases that you have to deal with, all the functions, marketing, regulatory, manufacturing, sales, is really keeping everything in order and in line to get great execution at the end.
To add that with the changing political landscape and all of these states trying to do their own thing, it's just so important to stay looped into the industry. We're a member of American Herbal Products Association, also known as APA. It's a very good trade association, and it's very helpful to be able to talk to other people in the industry who have their finger on the pulse of what might be going on, what might be coming in. because right now there is a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen. And in some ways, it's wonderful because people are paying more attention to things like colorants or different ingredients in their foods and asking, does that need to be in there, or what's going on with this ingredient? But then there's also, is the FDA going to be staffed well? What does that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? Does that give rise to some fly-by-night companies that are going to compete on the wrong levels? Does that make it harder? So there is a lot of question marks around what's going to come, but I think it's just important to stay informed and stay looped in.
So if we had this conversation in 12 months, which I hope we do, what would make you feel it's been a successful year?
Well, obviously, growth. Growth is always good. Expanding with our product lines and fully developing them, and then being able to respond to those consumer demands. And more importantly, put good products in people's hands that will help them improve their lives. Like Kelly said, we're there to help them along the way. Yeah, we're not a pharmaceutical or OTC company, but supplements, I think the consumer is starting to realize that is a good aid in terms of being proactive with your health. You can't expect miracles overnight, right? Because that's not the way the supplements work. It takes a little while to build into your system, but I think they're understanding that having a good regimen in terms of using the right supplements for their needs and then being patient with that and then continuing with that, it will be very valuable for them. So it's, again, putting good products in consumers' hands that are clinically tested and do what it says. So that's really, at least from my perspective.
For me, all of that, yes, but being able to crack into another international region would make me feel like the next 12 months is a real success. We've been working on a number of them for years, and just like Al said, it's about how many things you have on your plate, how many balls you have in the air, but we've got a couple that we're very close on. So I hope that in 12 months when we talk, we get to tell you about it.
Yeah, I hope to hear where's next.
Where in the world is Synergy?
That's right. Well, that's it for today's episode of A Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. A huge thank you to Al and Kelly for sharing their insights into the amazing work that Synergy CHC is doing to help people live healthier, happier lives. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit. And if you're a brand or business making an impact in health, wellness, or personal care, we'd love to help you grow. Connect with me at luxhammer.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep making a difference.